Hello everyone in History of Graphic Design Summer Edition. Just a couple things to go over here. First of all, it was very nice to get to know you a little bit via the Getting Acquainted discussion post. It looks like some of you already made friends, which is pretty cool. Especially in this strange environment we're in, where not a whole lot is taking place in person right now. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and probably the most important thing for us to make sure we all understand going forward, is the discussion questions. So they are graded, and just as a reminder, inside of Canvas, you just go to grades to see your grades, and yours should look roughly like this. And so the discussion question, the one for this week, to use as an example for what yours might look like, there was a maximum 40 points. So whatever you received here, and if you want to know, like what that grade means as far as translating to a percentage point, you just take this number divided by this number. So for example, let's say you did get a 22.5. So you take that, divide it by 40, and then this number, well, I guess you could say that the next step would be to multiply it by 100. So that would be your grade, 56.25%, which obviously wouldn't be that great, but anything 70 and above gets you through your C and better grades. The other thing, very important on here, is these two buttons. One is the comment, so if you click on this, if I felt I needed to make a comment on your paper, that's where you would find that. And then this other one here is the rubric. Now, if you got 40 out of 40, I didn't fill the rubric in because that would be redundant. But if you got anything less than 40 out of 40, just check the rubric and see which area you got less points on. And then it should be self-explanatory from there as to what the deficiency is in your paper. Probably the ones that were missed the most was people either giving kind of a generic peer review response, only doing, say, one student instead of both. And like I mentioned last week, I start out grading these a little bit easier, and then I get a little bit harder as the semester goes on. So mainly the thing that I was a little bit more lenient on this week were people not making their responses sound like they were definitely informed from the textbook. So I'm expecting in the future, when I read your initial discussion post to these discussion questions, is that I will see page numbers in parentheses. So if it's just a page number with no author quoted, I know that it came from the textbook. So I should say page number and or illustration numbers. But also it's very important for all of our sanities and for your mind to grow, that you're putting a little bit of yourself into these discussions. So, answer the question. When you're kind of paraphrasing what they say in the book, just put in parentheses the page number or figure number. And if you're directly quoting, obviously put it in quotation marks. But also try to put a little bit of you in there, so that when other students respond, they can pick up on the thing that's different in your response than what they just read in the textbook, and it makes for a more interesting discussion. And it's definitely not okay to tell someone, yeah, good response. I mean, it's supposed to be an engagement, like an in-person conversation. So if somebody says something, and especially look for their original thoughts in there, tell them why you do or don't agree in a very nice way, like you would do in person. Another thing that's commonly missed by students, especially those pushing the deadlines, is that ability to write up the response and then get away from it for a while and proofread it. So that'll affect your grade if there's a lot of just like silly things in there. And I know I'm guilty of them. myself. My biggest one that I catch myself on when I read my announcements like a week later when I'm trying to catch up on, okay, what's the class doing today? And I read through, I'm like, oh, there's another one. I will put you instead of your. So it'll be like, you assignment was due, so it just reads kind of funny. Most people know what it is. But if it were, for a class that I was taking, the best way that I can tell you that I would do this so that I avoid doing stuff like that is I would type out my response in Word and then save it in Word, go do something else for a little while, come back, read it one last time, and then copy and paste it into the discussion post. Okay, and then for our upcoming, starting now, second week of class, the module is posted for your viewing in here, and of course what is due is posted as part of that as well. The most important and the biggest part of your grade up until the term paper does come from these discussion questions. So make sure you read them very carefully, not only the question but the instructions that ask you, to, like for example, please cite specific examples from the text in your response and this information here, but also check the rubric. So there's two ways you can get back and see the rubric week after week. One of them is to go just simply to announcements, read the first announcement in here, and the second way would be to go into grades, and at any time you can click on the rubric and the grade like I showed you at the beginning of this video. Something on a very positive note is, if you think about it, after this second week is completed, we are 25% of the way through the course, so that could be good news for some of you. The other thing is, we'll talk obviously much more about this as we get closer, especially about into the halfway point of the class, but I know some students just like having things in the back of their head as they're working, so I'm going to go through this kind of slowly so that you could pause this part of the video if you want and read more details on the final term paper that you'll be doing. Don't pay too much attention to these dates here because these may get shifted. They always translate from the previous semester and don't translate perfectly. But what I did want you to see, so that they're in the back of your mind here, is the list of the graphic designers that you will compare. So you have these different choices here of papers to write about. So you may want to put these in your notes, so as we get further in the textbook and you start seeing some of these names, you can start to pique up your curiosity on them. So the main names that we have here are Gail Anderson, Herbert Baer, Chip Kidd, April Greiman, and Joseph Mueller Brockman. Some of them, like Brockman, you'll see sooner. Some of them quite later, like Chip Kidd, and so on. So anyway, I know some of you probably like, don't bog me down with too many details right now. But for those of you that do want to see it in advance, there's your chance. Okay. I'll talk to you in the next video and or the comments. And one final big reminder is when you email me, please make sure that it is through Canvas. As I explained last week, you click on the inbox icon here and then choose your class. Well, actually, first you click on this, then you choose the class, give it a subject, and reach out to me that way. Now that even includes if I make a comment, for example, like on your grade, please don't just comment back on that. The problem, one of the problems with Canvas is that stuff kind of goes off into Never Never Land. Now, I guess there are ways where you can set it up where it emails the instructor, but to me it's just a whole lot easier if we all just pick and decide on one method of communication, which is right here, this inbox icon through Canvas. So if I did make a comment and you did not understand it or want to discuss it further via email, just simply copy that comment, paste it into the email and write something like, Steve, you made the following comment on my discussion post that was due week number 1. I don't understand such and such. All right. Talk to you soon.